Okay, so how do you actually write? Now you know the question that your book is the answer to, and you know who your ideal reader is. And so what next? Okay, clustering is what is next. This is a fun and easy hack to start organizing your ideas and getting a framework for your book. What is clustering? Clustering is a way of visually organizing your ideas. It's very playful, it's very lighthearted, and it doesn't get you all crunched up in front of your computer going, which we definitely want to avoid. Okay, so this book, for example, this is the proof copy of a book that I produced for Dr. Greg Hammer, who's a Stanford professor and a doctor, and it's called Gain Without Pain. The subtitle's changed now to the Happiness Handbook for Healthcare Professionals. That's something that can happen when you get to the final stages. Test the title and decide what works best. Anyway, so GAIN is an acronym. Dr. Hammer unfortunately dealt with the devastating death of his son under the age of 30, and he was rocked to his core by this, and he struggled to overcome his grief for the loss of his wonderful son. And first he buried himself in work, and he took care of the celebration of life and took care of his son's bills and such not. Then he started just working way too hard, drinking too much, and this was not good. And he had a wake-up call one day and realized, I'm going totally the wrong way. When he discovered there were 4 key elements that turned his life around, and he implemented them in his own life, and that's GAIN. And then his life transformed. He became more present, happier, developed better relationships, lost weight, got fit again, and felt that life had meaning and purpose. And now he is sharing his message of GAIN with the world. So for him, he discovered these 4 elements, and they are here. You can see at the beginning of writing this book, it could have put the GAIN in the middle, and it's gratitude, acceptance, intention, and non-judgment. Stands for GAIN without pain. Okay, so that could be, if you were at this, well, what was my turning point? How did I do X, whatever your X is? So then you would have another piece of paper. Each one of these is a big element in the book, and so here would be an example. We had 4 things coming off, and now we have a whole page for gratitude instead of just having one thing. So now we have a whole page for gratitude. And so then you would just brainstorm, what are the top of mind stories or things that make me think about gratitude, and what are they? So for example, 3 things is written up here. There's a very famous study which is well documented that if you write down 3 things you're grateful for each day, that it improves your happiness. It has a profound impact on your happiness, and it actually has quite a lasting impact as well. And it's a joyful thing to do. So people who do the 3 things they're grateful for each day typically continue doing it. So it's a great life hack for happiness. So that goes under gratitude. By the way, if you also acknowledge your role in those things turning out well, in other words, your character traits that made that thing go well, that will even deepen the happiness. Okay, so that's one thing that comes under gratitude. What we've got mind Velcro. So what do we mean here? We mean actually the mind is a Velcro for negative experiences. And it's like Teflon to positive experiences. There's a negativity bias built in because for survival reasons we needed to focus on what was going wrong, but now this is maladaptive in our culture. So he wanted to talk about the mind being a Velcro for negative things, and how we have to be mindful and deliberate about cultivating gratitude to offset, because otherwise we're going to be tipping always to the negative or the toxic side, and that's no way to go through life. Einstein comes off of here. Why that? Because Einstein said there's 2 ways to live your life. One is as if everything is a miracle, and the other is as if nothing is a miracle. So it's much better to live as though everything is a miracle. So that's another idea that came off. And what's the other thing? Oh yeah, and then the bus and the alive. So Greg had an experience where he came this close to being run over by a bus. He wasn't paying attention as he walked off a sidewalk, and the bus just brushed by like 2 inches from his face, and he came that close to being dead. So just gratitude for, you know what, you're alive. Gratitude that you didn't get killed by the bus. Gratitude that things didn't go wrong. Gratitude that no matter what, if you're listening to this video or you're writing a book, you are alive. And you're learning, you're growing, you're contributing, you're creating. There's so much to be grateful for. Okay, so that would be an example of using clustering. When you cluster, you'll notice, oh wow, I have a lot to say about gratitude. That deserves its own chapter. And then some other things that you may have thought were a big part of your book, you realize, oh, I actually only have the one story. It's a good story and I want to share it, but it's not like a whole, big part. So clustering is a fun and easy way to discover what you want to say, and I totally recommend that as a way of going about creating your book and discovering what your content is. And so again, we're setting up these new habits. So your new habit is radical writing, probably every morning. And again, how is a habit set up? You have a trigger or a cue that launches that behavior. So you want to always be writing after something that you always do, like after you have your morning coffee, then you start writing, or after you get back from yoga, or after you shower and dress, then you start your writing, and then you want to build in a reward. Okay, so the reward is something easy and fun and quick, but every day, immediately upon doing your desired new habit, which in this case is the daily writing practice. So that could be as simple as jumping up and down and going, I'm awesome. It could be a piece of dark chocolate. It could be a gold heart in your journal. Just some little thing immediately to acknowledge your writing. Okay, well, this video has gotten quite long, but I did want to say a couple of more things. All right, well, I'm just going to add these couple more things. So when you're writing, do not edit as you go. For one thing, it's a completely different side of your brain. And for another thing, you don't know where you're going until you get there. So just make friends with a messy first draft. Everybody, no matter how great the writer, well, with almost no exceptions, has a messy, ugly first draft. So get over it, because then you can polish it up more quickly. If you write 1,000 words a day in a month, you could have 30,000 words, which is basically a short book. And then you have 2 more months to polish and edit and refine and rewrite. So you could write a short book, 30,000 word book or so, in 12 weeks. I'm not saying that you have to, but it's a possibility. But one good way to waste a bunch of time is editing as you write. Why is that? Because you don't want to, as you go down a certain path with your writing, with your thinking, you don't know if it's a dead end or not yet. You don't know if that's going to be a key part of your book. So you don't want to pave that path until you know for sure that's the way you're going to go. It just wastes a bunch of time. Also, it's a different side of your brain. So I like to do the editing on a completely different day from writing. For right now, I really want you to focus on bringing out the creative, playful 5-year-old. And we do not need the school marm who's like, you spelled that wrong. Or how do you spell, Mississippi or whatever. So really invite you to just enjoy the writing process. Don't worry about spelling. Do the radical writing. Just flow. Okay, so you've got the clustering. That gives you a tip on what you might be writing. Take one of these things that's in your circle and write about it the next day so that you know what you're writing about. But here's a good hack. Do not write until you're done. Do not write until you come to the end of the story. So for example, one of my clients, Becky Jansen, she has a really cool story that she shared with me about a little girl who's all dressed up and has got this little purse. And so the normal thing a first-time writer would do when they're sitting down for their radical writing in the morning, is they would write the whole story about the little girl with the purse. Then they'd end that, and then the next day when they open up their journal to write again, they maybe don't know what they're going to write about. So that's a problem. We want to avoid writer's block. So Instead, I recommend that she begins the story about the little girl and the purse, and she goes through the various beats of the story, noticing the girl, noticing the purse, noticing the grandmother who was with her, and asking the grandmother, do you mind if I talk to this little girl for a moment? And the grandmother says, no problem, you can certainly go ahead. And then, Becky leans down, about to talk to the little girl and looking in her eyes, and Becky opens her mouth, and that's where you stop the sentence, because Becky knows what she said. She knows what happens next in the story. And when you stop mid-sentence, when you still have a lot of energy and you know where the story's going, then your subconscious mind is like eager to get back to writing the next day and finish up that story. So this is something that Hemingway and many famous writers, Stephen King and others, recommend. Don't write until you're done. Stephen Kotler, also a New York Times bestselling author. So make sure you know where you're going next with your story, and an easy way to do that is don't write till you're spent, but write until you're like in the middle of something and you know exactly where it's going next. Another tip to do on that, and I sometimes just do this as a bullet point, is I will put a bullet point, what would be a good story to follow. For, in Becky's example, would be a good story to come next after the story with the little girl and her shiny purse. So you could just ask an open-ended question, and then what you'll find, or what Becky would find in this case, is that her mind will be subconsciously working on that during the day. I also really like asking a question to my higher self, or my intuitive self, or to God, or the universe as I'm falling asleep. So if I'm struggling writing a screenplay and I'm not sure what plot twist should come next, I'll just ask, what would be a really great next plot twist? And I can't tell you how many times I wake up in the morning with, I've got it! It's the most amazing idea! All right. So those are a couple other tips to help make your writing flow easily, effortlessly, and to just have the excitement to get to writing the next day, and to never have writer's block, which is only fear anyway. It's fear of not being good enough, and that'll be another video because this one's long enough. So again, to recap, I'm Aurora Winter, the author of Thought Leader Launch and 6 other books, and I love helping people write their books and connect with their contribution to humanity. So what we covered today is how to really lean into the behavior of writing in a way that's playful and fun, and to hack neuroscience so that you're never at a loss for words again, by both using clustering as an easy free association to see where the energy in your book is, where the stories are, what you've got to share. It leaves it very visual. You can, paste it up in your office, or you can carry that around in your carry-on if you're traveling. And then to also, as you're writing, again, you've got the habit of writing, you have a trigger, then the behavior of writing. You don't write until you're spent and exhausted and run out of things to say. No, you start the story and then you stop it mid-sentence, mid-flow. That makes you eager to come back to the writing the next day. And you can also add to that eagerness to come back to the next day, and add to that certainty about what's next by asking a question. You could leave it in the bottom of your journal or your computer if you're writing on your computer. And I really love asking it at night as I'm falling asleep, because then my subconscious mind is busy solving the problem while I'm sleeping, so I get the solution in no extra time. All right, well, keep up the good work. I look forward to reading your work very soon. Bye for now.